twitches. Sometimes rage can feel a bit like a fire.
Wants to say, why me? Why me?
Say it. You can say it as loud as you like.
Why me? Why? Why me?
You can see that this video is coming from a different angle. Once Lucrezia has let me know that she feels safe and ready to connect with a little bit of her rage, I change positions and go back to contain her gut, which is where she's indicated the rage is held. And as soon as I put my hands there and use a verbal cue to just gently connect back in, her body immediately starts to go into little twitches. So I know that her body is ready to process. And all I do is use invitation with my voice to let her know it's okay to allow those little twitches. And as soon as I give her that additional invitation and permission, she goes into an experience of verbally expressing, why me?
Why did this happen to me? Why? Why me? And me. Mama, I needed your protection, Mommy. Why me? I have so much anger because it's made my life so difficult. So difficult. It's affected me in so many ways. I've hurt so many people along the way trying to get happiness, protection, safety. I've used people.
What was it that you really would have needed, Lucrezia?
I would have needed somebody to tell me it's gonna be okay. Somebody to tell me not to worry. Somebody to tell me it's okay the way I am. Somebody to tell me that I don't need all this extra stuff to be successful and all that stuff. Somebody to tell me that I am just good as I am. That I'm enough. All that effort and money spent trying to buy things to make me happy. Instead of me, myself. Pretending that everything is okay. Coping with other stuff. It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard. And nobody can see me.
seen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I want somebody to understand my pain. And not having to put up a front as I always do and pretend that everything is okay. Because it's not.
It's not okay.
It's not. That's the reality. I need to stop pretending.
You don't have to pretend here.
I'm trying to pretend with everybody. I'm trying to pretend that I can be a friend, that I can be an employee, that I can be a daughter, that I can be a sister, that I can be a partner. I can't. Especially a partner. It's so difficult for me.
I want you to breathe into your whole body between my hands here. Good. Just connect to that space. Just staying with that space. Just that layer. It's a little freer. A little lighter.
You see why it's scary to go there.
Again. I want you to just acknowledge that how scary that was, but that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
How does it feel to connect to that?
It's good.
Yeah. You didn't disappear in it. You didn't go into a crazy state.
No.
It's nice to know, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just allow that space to integrate so that it can stay a nice clear layer inside you that's not affected by that rage and all those other feelings. What happened to you? And knowing perhaps there's more to go, more to explore, but it's been very safe to feel and express just a little bit. You can see a lot happening in Lucrezia's rant and her experience of emotional release. As I've connected in with my hand and directed her to feel her rage, you can see very quickly she goes into emotional release and has both tears and starts to have verbal expression. And it seems to me that the rage or the anger transforms very naturally to what I would consider a mixture of both grief and shame. And I'm with Lucrezia as she expresses and managing her levels of activation. So my hand initially is at her stomach, her gut, helping to contain her experience. And there's a point after a certain degree of release that I feel everything shift up to here. So I move my hand to the chest area to help contain there. And then again, her activation becomes a little higher and I can feel her gut activating again. So I move my hand back there. So I'm letting her body have a very felt sense of being listened to and supported, which helps her contain and move through her experience safely. I give Lucrezia quite a bit of space just to express freely, being there silently with her. After some time, once her expression slows down and becomes a little bit more clear, I start to mirror some of her words. So she says it's hard and I say yes it's hard, or it's so difficult, and I mirror her. And in this way I'm helping her really have a sense of being seen and heard, because as you can hear in her experience, that's what she didn't have, that she really needed. So I'm providing that for her in the therapeutic setting. And I think a lot of this verbal release is about finding a place for this very young child part of her that didn't have a chance to express, to get it all out. And what's interesting is that perhaps part of the expression are thoughts that have been suppressed, but I think there may be also thoughts that would not have yet been formed and still somatic in nature, because when we're children, and certainly in the face of trauma, a lot of our experience is not conscious, it's somatic, because our young brains are not formed enough to have a lot of these thoughts. So some of the thoughts that are coming out are suppressed and some of them are new, and for Lucretia this is an experience of making sense. And you can see she even moves into almost a confessional type little bit of that, where she's saying basically all of these horrible things that happened to me, they made me do these things, they made me shop, and they made me be terrible in relationships. And so this is a really important moment for her that again causes this beautiful natural release of shame. Once Lucretia has had what seems like sufficient release, I can feel her system start to come down and that there's a feeling of space inside her. So actually then I bring two hands to connect to that space, and I direct her to connect to that space with her breath. And this is a really excellent technique for integration. So both my hands here are supporting, containing as she breathes into the space. And I use a positive suggestion to invite her to connect to that, to integrate it, and to keep it so that she can take it off the table after this session. And I can feel, and perhaps you can see, her system really starts to come down. Lucretia then verbalizes, see, can't you see why that would have been a very scary place to go? And I let her know, yeah, of course I can. And something that's really important here is that I bring her awareness to the fact that she could, that she had enough capacity to experience her rage and everything else that came with it, and to feel safe again. And I think bringing conscious awareness to a client's capacity to feel and process emotion is a really important part of the therapeutic process when emotions have been suppressed, because they've been suppressed because there's not enough capacity. So when a client safely does have an experience of emotional connection and expression and resolution, bringing their awareness to that is very important, because it builds their own trust in their experience and trust to then go and experience and process more emotions as therapy continues.
Well, that was amazing. I didn't know I could do that.
Do what?
Let all of that out. Typically when I let it out is after I get into a fight or something, you know. To be able to bring it up like that is very difficult for me. Yeah.
There was some resistance that came up a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your experience of that?
I guess what I relate that to is that I do this after I'm disassociated, or I do it when I'm not in my sort of present moment. So I think going there without a trigger is something that I was afraid to do.
Why do you think you're afraid to do it?
Because of the way I get when I do get a trigger.
Okay, yeah, you said you were afraid of going to the crazy state.
Yeah, crazy state. I feel like I'm crazy.
How did it feel to connect to it and not go to the crazy state?
That's good. It's a relief. Yeah.
Sometimes there can be this fear that if we go into that most difficult part of ourselves, that we'll get lost there or we'll drown in there.
Yeah, we'll drown in there. I think that's the fear.
Yeah.
But when you said that you were here, then that your needs. So okay, yeah, trust her.
Okay.
Yeah, so it felt okay.
And I want to ask, when you were on the table and you'd identified and connected to this rage and
moved through some layers of resistance and you got there safely, was it actually rage that was there, or was it something else?
I think it was pain, wasn't it? I think it was more pain. It was more a neediness. Well, there was a bit of anger towards being that subject, being subject to all that in my life, and a bit of blaming, I guess. Feeling why me and why, I don't know what that is. Is that anger or rage? But
it feels quite mixed, like
quite mixed, yeah. It was quite mixed.
it felt to me, but I don't know, it's your experience, that there was that anger and that rage, but there was a pretty big grief as well.
A lot of grief.
Yeah.
A lot of grief.
And it felt like just maybe a little bit of each.
Yeah, and maybe that grief is what's making me cry so much. Yeah. It's that grief of, I guess, a life that you live in parallel because of coping. I had to adopt all these pretend worlds.
So it was a bit confronting to go into how you really feel.
Yeah.
Okay. And knowing that you could go in and access that and not drown and come back, how does that feel?
Well, that feels like a big relief. It feels good. I feel that safer that I can do that now without labeling myself as crazy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you connected to, this is your, I guess, your place of resource, of peacefulness, and where little me lives.
Yes.
So we kind of drew a little map there today.
Yeah.
So I'd like to invite you to try connecting to her every day. So just like when you're kind of learning a new route somewhere, the more you go, the easier it becomes, and then you can kind of get there with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you each day to just connect in. You can use your breath, your hands, to that feeling of peacefulness and resource, and to your little self, the one that gets very terrified, and see how that goes. So you can do that proactively. And I'd also like you to see if you do get a trigger again and you start to feel, crazy state coming on, or the anger or victim or grief, if you can have a little piece of you that's going to have that awareness. Actually, I need to come back here. I need to take some space and come back here.
Yeah.
Can you give that a try?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to ask or share from the session today?
No, it was quite full on. Yeah, we experienced different ranges, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, lots of different things today.
Yeah.
Are you feeling present and in your body?
I think so. Yeah.
I want you to know so. You're not going to leave until you feel it.
When I stood, I could feel my body.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about now?
Maybe I should put 2 feet.
Yeah. Have some nuts.
Have some nuts. Yes.
Make sure you're nice and grounded and integrated. And then in a minute. After the session where so much has happened on the table, it's really important to take some time to integrate with a verbal conversation. A lot of the experience on the table is very felt and somatic in nature. So in order to integrate and find cohesion, we need to talk about it and ensure that Lucrecia has made sense of her experience. This is really key. It's what helps her take her experience and change off the table and into her life. So I always start to ask the client, is there anything you want to ask or share? And she says, that was amazing. And you can see that there is a smile on her face and she's nice and bright and open. So I can really feel a palpable sense of change in the way I'm experiencing her now to when she walked in the door. And then I simply asked Lucrecia about a couple of key moments in the session so that she can herself bring that information up. So she's going through a process of self-inquiry that's prompted by me. And I bring awareness, number one, to the experience of different emotion beneath the rage. So we identify, she says she's experienced pain, and then we connect to the idea of grief as well. So she's making sense of that. I also bring her awareness to the fact that it was safe for her to go there and experience that. And she verbalizes normally she can only experience the emotion when triggered. So to help her understand that she can have emotion when not triggered is a really big thing for her to take away and integrate. Because I worked with an anchor while on the table, so helping Lucretia connect to the peace and the safety for her little self, I mention it after the session, so again she can integrate it, and I make a suggestion for her to use it for self-care, because anchors are created so that the client can then take them off and use them in their lives. Lastly, I make an extra effort to ensure that Lucretia is grounded and in her body. Sometimes the clients can be talking to you and it seems like they're present, but they are still experiencing some level of dissociation when they've had a big experience of release. So I ask her, I make sure she puts her feet on the floor to ground, and I invite her to eat some nuts before she leaves, always being very careful to ensure that she's grounded and associated.